Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Eneko, Jose, for having me here with you on stage. Happy to be here and a pleasure to share stay with you. First of all, before kicking things off, I think it's only fair that you guys introduce yourselves a little bit. I'll do myself as well, but Eneko, if you want to kick it off, please.
Yes, so my name is Eneko Nor. I'm an entrepreneur for 25 years, investor in more than 30 startups after I sold my company to Telefónica in 2007. And now very focused on Stable, which is a platform it's a global payments platform based on stablecoins. And so I've been in crypto for a long time, which is my focus now. And as I said, I've been also on the other side of the table as an investor.
Awesome. Jose, yourself.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a serial entrepreneur that turned investor by chance. I built my first company a long time ago, and my first company became Mercado Libre these days. Then we built another company called OLX, and we have built a number of other companies throughout. So serial entrepreneur. And by chance, a lot of entrepreneurs came to us and said, hey, we want to have you on our cap table. We want you to help us out. We want to think with you. And my partner Fabrice and I decided to start investing, not necessarily with the idea of building a fund or more with the idea of helping the ecosystem. And then we realized that we had incredible returns. And this day, from the last 10 years, we built a firm called FJ Labs that focuses in investing in the things that we like and we understand.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. Great to have you again. Myself, just to wrap it up here with the intros, I've been helping entrepreneurs for the past 10 years. I've worked for a bit in venture capital, and more specifically, I've been devoting my life to helping entrepreneurs within the fundraising journey. So that's what I do for a living. That's what I enjoy the most. And then almost by accident as well, gaining access to a lot of deal flow, it was only interesting for me as well to get to invest a little bit. So together with my partners, we built a smaller fund than yours, I would say, and we get to invest also in interesting opportunities in the edge of what we call the AI resistance. So companies that deal with proprietary data so that they can actually leverage that data towards their mode. So having this on the table and rescuing the topic for the talk today, the 5 frontiers, talking about health, energy, food, mobility, and space, I think it's interesting to understand, I would say first, Jose, what's your perspective coming from the network effects? How do you see these industries? How do you see those survival systems coming in? And what do you rescue out of those?
Yeah, I think that in our case, we are more focused in investing on things that are interesting, and I can explain what interesting is.
Yes, please.
Not necessarily saying a specific sector. I believe that in the 5 sectors that we're talking about, there is a lot of opportunity. No, it just depends how it's framed. And it depends on what type of opportunities you are targeting, and so on. So I don't want to categorize whether space is more interesting. Clearly, there is sectors that have much higher risk with much higher potential return, and there's other sectors that have potentially less risk, and potentially less return. But they are all very big sectors, all very needy. And the human will continue to use those type of services, no? And I do believe, the reason why I do what I do is because I believe technology has the ability of making the life of people better, no? So long as the technologies are helping people live better, I'm happy with any of those sectors. Now, I also have to say that I believe there's a lot of opportunity outside of specific AI these days, no? 85% of the total venture and growth funding over the last 12 months went to AI-specific projects, no, in the US. So that is really massive. That means that there's a lot of other companies that are doing great, and we see this in our portfolio, that are having very hard times raising. So if you can manage to invest in something that gets properly funded with the right type of people around the table, you actually can find amazing opportunities, no? And I'll give you an example of something that has nothing to do with AI. Of course, AI is being used to enable, to make the business easier, to facilitate matching supply and demand, but it's a marketplace for second-hand cars in Canada. The company is called Clutch. It's similar to Carvana, that was as valuable as $100 billion. Then it went down to to 1 billion, not even, and then it came back to 80 or 90. So the comparables in the US are very big. And this company is called Clutch, and Clutch had the exact same story in Canada, and the company had to restructure, and raised capital, having almost $1 billion in GMV run rate at $35 million pre-money. So those that were willing to invest in this type of thing, that was not necessarily AI-driven or AI-focused, came in, and today the company just recently raised capital at 1.2 billion valuation. So there is a lot of opportunities that are being overseen, in a lot of cases for the right reason, because you just cannot put enough people around the table that can get the companies funded with the amount of capital that they need. But if you are able to find companies that can get properly funded with the right people, there's amazing opportunity.
Great to rescue. Getting there for the money part, the capital side that we mentioned, the run rates and so on, is where the monetary part comes in. No? And we can discuss whether fintech is an underlying sector to all these, or it's like the common factor to all these. How do you see this, Eneko? What is your perspective, monetary-wise? How do you expect the future of the survival of the human species coming in with the money side?
So it's interesting because as entrepreneurs, we want to build something big, make money, but we also want to change the world. We want to make the world a better place. And now is the moment with health tech. Health tech, I'm very bullish on health tech because it's really something that. So imagine that there is this visionary in Silicon Valley called Ray Kurzweil. He used to say that he wanted to live enough to live forever. So, and this was like 20 years ago. And now it's more true than ever. It's like if you manage to survive, so the cure to the cancer, it's amazing what's going on, and it's growing, it's accelerating exponentially thanks to AI. So it's really changing the world, entrepreneurs in health, in all of these industries, right? For instance, energy. Energy, the price of the energy tends to zero. So at some point, there will be a technology that is going to make the energy cost zero, right? So
can you go further on that? I want to understand your hypothesis of the. I know I've heard about this, but what's your view actually on the energy consumption, energy delivery, and what is the survival coming in there with?
So this is interesting. Of course, I think that this phrase is also by Ray Kurzweil. The cost of energy tends to zero is because at some point we will have a technology that is going to make the energy really be not zero but super cheap, like nuclear fusion or whatever. So every week we have news in the technology world. So that's going to happen, and that's going to change totally the world. If the energy is zero, it's like you can have free water because the desalinization. So you take water from the sea and you remove the salt almost for free because the energy is the biggest cost right now. So and then of course.
But we don't need money anymore if energy is zero. So where that stable would come in there?
So and another interesting thing is that we live now in a world where people can have access to a bank account, whatever, and there are in the world there are 3 billion people, 3 billion unbanked people. So people that, and from the 3 billion, 2 billion have a smartphone. So 2 billion people that don't have access to a bank account have a smartphone. So there is a way for these people to have access to the new financial system, which is a financial system built on the blockchain, DeFi, and that's what we are working on Stablewood.
Amazing. Great. We've talked about AI because we cannot talk about AI. We want to keep on following the topics. Coming from my end and understanding my thesis on AI resistance, it's not that I'm against AI, but of course I see opportunities around AI and how AI acts as an enabler, as Jose was mentioning. However, Jose, what's your view in terms of the menace that AI resembles, and how do you see it, for example, more specifically within the marketplace environment and within all that industry? What does it entail?
I mean, there is clearly a very disruptive moment in time. No? I mean, AI is going to change the world in a lot of shapes or forms. It might take shorter or longer in different sectors, but it's absolutely transformational. That doesn't necessarily mean that whoever invests in AI is going to make money. No? So in my humble view, I believe that the generative AI game is a game that is more for the large incumbents or large players. So, we invested in some of the companies that we felt could be winners doing this, But there's a handful of companies that are going to do that. In our opinion, the Anthropics of the world, the OpenAIs of the world, even some of the incumbents like Google. I mean, these are the guys that, in our mind, are going to be running generative AI, and in a lot of cases, maybe even agentic AI.
Have you invested in any of these?
Yeah, we invested in Anthropic, but we invested late, like we do in a lot of these plays that are not necessarily our core. But we still invest on things that we think we can get at least at the next when we came in. No? So we were very fortunate to have access, and we were able to do that. But the point is, if you are not investing in some of these large players, which today I would be quite thoughtful about, depending on how do you value businesses, a lot of the things in AI are really priced to perfection. No? So having said that, I think there's a lot of companies that will end up investing on things that are going to commoditize. My vision is that technology will become a commodity. Even data eventually will commoditize. And the things that would make businesses last and maintain margins, despite of how fast you grow revenue, is, in our case, network effects. No? And a lot of people are underestimating the value of certain things and certain relationships on how do you build defensibility. No? I mean, if you
Can you double click on the network effects concept? Because it might be a bit abstract for some people. So what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, what I mean is that a very concrete example, the second company we built is, it's OLX, it's a global classified business similar to Craigslist. It's a platform for selling, for matching supply and demand between products and services. No? And there's a competitor in the US, a player in the US that is the one who created this business that is called Craigslist. Mm-hmm. And the product that they have is absolutely obsolete. And the company is still throwing cash and growing like crazy. And the reason for that is because in marketplaces, the only thing that really matters is liquidity. No? So at the end, you might have a bad product, but people are going and finding what they want on the supply and on the demand, and then they are creating network effects. So that is what I'm talking about, being able to build something that, that is very hard to replicate because you build liquidity. No? And I'm not saying that AI cannot enable that, but I teach a class at Stanford, and a lot of people come to me and tell me, hey, marketplaces are going to disappear. AI is going to kill marketplaces. AI is going to kill network effect businesses. I think that's completely wrong. I think AI is a big enabler. And LLMs, in our view, are going to commoditize. And as a marketplace or a network effect business, you can actually index yourself in those LLMs, and use the traffic as a feeder. Everybody's talking about this, but today, only 1% of the traffic is being generated by LLMs. So the potential disruption that you see today on that is minor. And if you are investing in LLM technology, that's going to become a commodity. And as I was saying before, even the data would probably commoditize, because a lot of people have proprietary data today, but I believe that with AI, a lot of this data is going to become less relevant, or is going to be replicated in different forms or fashion. So that also is not necessarily a very strong competitive advantage. Where I see the competitive advantage is in those companies that can actually build those network effects. No? And how do you make sure that you do that? I was going to mention the example of SaaS. I mean, the last months have been a cataclysm for SaaS businesses, because everybody thinks, in the public markets, everybody thinks that SaaS businesses are going to disappear. Yeah. And I think that that's absolutely wrong. There's going to be a lot of companies that are going to disappear, yes, but there's going to be a lot of other companies that are going to come out stronger, because they are being enabled, and people are underestimating the value of certain type of things that make those businesses defensible. I mean, personal relationships, things that you cannot replicate with technology. Mm-hmm. So those are the type of things that we think bring the biggest opportunity. Not investing in agentic technology, not investing in generative AI, but investing in businesses that are using AI to do things that they couldn't do before, or to do things that they were doing before in a much better and more efficient way. And we've seen a number of businesses doing that. I mean, there's a company called Garage that is actually a marketplace to sell coches de bomberos,
Firefighter cars.
firefighting trucks.
That's a
You know,
it's a
and,
niche. It's a
and,
niche.
and that company could not exist before just because of how costly it was to move supply from one point to another. But with new technologies, you know, that market gets unlocked. And then the company is doing incredibly well, you know, and utilizing technology in a way that other people, you know, were not utilizing it, you know, and building strong network effects. No? So those are the type of things we like to invest in. And also, to be honest, we've been doing a lot of things on what we call picks and shovels of the industry. The industry is going to grow and doesn't necessarily will commoditize, no? Differently than what we think will happen with a lot of the agentic and generative AI. No?
Great. Where does the AI play a role here? Where is it in the financial layer? Where do you see it happening? Is blockchain disrupted at all? Is it enabled by AI? Is it playing any role within that equation?
Yeah, it's now an interesting topic in the AI world and the financial world is AI agents paying by themselves, and AI agents are not going to use your bank account or your credit card account, your credit card. They are going to use stablecoins, right? So now it's an interesting topic how all these AI agents are going to use these stablecoin infrastructure layers to do all the payments. It's a very interesting topic. Now everyone is talking about stablecoins, but now
what are stablecoins? Because I want also everyone to be on the same page there. So.
So stablecoins are cryptocurrencies referenced to usually a dollar, so that it's the new version of the US dollar or other currencies. It's a way to transfer money worldwide in a very cheap way. So you can transfer, for instance, 100 million from Canada to Japan in 3 seconds with a cost of 2 cents. So that's going to be really an authentic revolution in the financial world. So that on the part of the finance. And other things that I see, this is interesting for entrepreneurs. And I was now listening to Jose. I was thinking of a friend that sold his company like 10 years ago. 100 people, an interesting exit, and I said, what are you going to do next? And you know, everyone that manages people, we know that managing people is a pain in the ass. So this friend said, the next thing I'm going to start has to be something without employees. And I laughed because 10 years ago it was a joke, and today is not a joke. Today people can really build a company with no employees. So, and this is very challenging, but also very interesting for entrepreneurs.
Awesome. No, it's good that you share all this. Amazing. I promised myself that I was gonna respect the topic for the table today. So coming back to the investing in what keeps us alive, and I will rescue the investing side of it. So what is the investor role within this? Because if we go back to the 5 core industries that we mentioned, most of these could be associated with deep tech or deep science or long cycles of development, long cycles for M&A. So what is the approach on a more VC institutionalized investor in perspectives to the timing? So how do you manage the time horizons? Do you see things speeding up? Is the regulatory part a bottleneck still? So what is the view from the investor side time-wise?
I mean, there is a number of things that are market-driven that don't change, no? And you know, there's a number of people, there's a certain type of growth in certain places versus others. You know, there's a certain number of patterns of consumption, you know, that we cannot deny. You know, the world is going to continue to move in a certain direction. And as I said before, I do believe that technology has enabled the world and will continue to enable the world to leapfrog, no? And I am very bullish on what technology can do in these fronts. So when I think about the different sectors, you know, that keeps us alive, I think the impact of technology will continue to be massive in all of those. You know, when you think about food, you know, people have to realize that there's so many animals around the world that are generating CO2 and that is creating, you know, a very strong effect into the world. So how do you manage that? How do you deal with that? How do you make sure that those emissions get controlled? You know, how do you create replacements for food, you know, that can actually help the world deal against this type of problem? Energy, I mean, Eneko mentioned before, but, you know, with what we are seeing with AI, it's crazy the amount of energy that is being drawn, even as of today, when we still have an incipient moment, I would call it, in terms of what we are going to see in the next 5 or 10 years. Energy consumption is just skyrocketing. So we need to find, with technology, alternatives that will help us, find more efficient ways of doing that. I do trust that we are seeing so much innovation, that will happen. In the case of health, people say, yeah, everybody that is being born now is going to live forever. That's not true. But there's a number of massive breakthroughs that are happening that are driven by technology that can actually increase the lifespan of people. And that means that there's going to be very strong impact in the other categories that we were talking about. No? So everything is quite interrelated. No? Space technology, space technology is probably the highest risk, but probably the one that, in my eyes, have the biggest potential type of return.
Have you guys invested in space at all?
We've invested in a bunch of things, including SpaceX many years ago.
And aside from SpaceX, that is the monopoly for now, like where have you invested?
No, it's not really a monopoly. We invested in a company that is actually building stations to be able to test products in space, with no gravity and stuff like this. It's related to healthcare. But there's a lot of initiatives that are related to that are related to communication, that actually can move the needle and really change the world. No? And those are the type of things that sometimes you don't know if you are going to make money on things like this, but certainly investing in people that want to change the world, in some cases they will fail, but in other cases, they will win. And that's why technology is so important. No? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my view throughout the different stages. I think they are all places where there's going to be dramatic growth, and they all need innovation and technology to be able to cope with a lot of the challenges that we are seeing these days.
Amazing. No, it's good that we focus on also what keeps us alive, that we focus on returns. Just to wrap it up, Eneko, I want to also leave you some time to guide us through these comments, and specifically I want to see your view on the space sector. How do you see it there, and what's your view on that?
I think that the space sector is overpriced and it's kind of a long shot. It's very difficult to compete as a startup in this industry, and I wouldn't invest now in space when you have a lot of interesting things to invest in, and going back to things that can change the world. So is technology changing things that we always thought that would be a problem for the humanity, like the water, right? Now you have machines that you put the machine in the middle of the desert, and it takes water out of the thin air, right? Or there are machines that can absorb the CO2 and make it disappear from the air. So there are very interesting things that can change the world. I don't know sometimes if they're going to make money to the investors, or because for investors, for instance, health. Super interesting, but it's been always like very, very long periods of time, right? Since you invest in a startup, it gets the license, whatever, like 20 years until they start making money with this product, right? And so there is an interesting industry, which is the longevity. I think it's super interesting to invest in because it's a shorter period of time to see the revenues. So longevity, any solution that exists today to stop you from so you can be like us. We look very young, and you can stop aging right now.
Probably younger than what we are, no?
So you can stop aging right now, and if somebody tells you you have to pay X amount of money, like 10,000 a year to stop aging, who's not going to pay for that? If you have the money, right? So I think that this is a super interesting industry because it's really something that everybody is going to pay for, like being able to stop from aging.
Amazing. I think it's very good that we should rename the session actually investing in what keeps us alive longer. No? So we're going for that longevity term. So just to wrap it up on our end, thank you guys.
Let me make an additional comment because I think that having lived in so many places around the world and, US educated, living in Europe, I want to make the comment that we should be smart about how to create the right innovation in Europe. No? And we have an audience here of entrepreneurs, and I think there's a number of contextual things that need to change. Most important is the embracing failure. No? So we all should work on whatever direction we can to make sure that we create an environment where people are enabled to take risk, and and that they are not crucified or spend the next 5 years of their life trying to fix a problem when they fail. No? So I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I am a true believer that Europe has incredible talent. I mean, I have dealt with this firsthand. I would not underestimate the talent that I see here with what I see in Silicon Valley. What I think is that we have to be smart on what to compete on. No? And when we build and innovate things, let's not try just to compete and kill everything that is happening in other places where they have 1,000 times more resources. Let's adapt ourselves to the reality of what Europe is. Let's have Europe work together, and let's make sure that we are smart about the sectors we want to disrupt and we want to innovate by using technology.
Great message. To wrap it up, I won't add much more. Just as a conclusion here, we talk about energy tending to zero. Health is long, but longevity is there to make our lives longer. We talk about food and the need and all the pollution around food and everything it entails. We talk partially about mobility. We, of course, talk about space and the future of space. So I want to thank you guys again for this time. I want to thank you all for coming by. And I guess we'll give it a go and let's go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.